Welcome to Gemara Academy. In this class, we will learn Tosfos Dibra Maschel Kan L'Mayla Miyuda. Let's begin by looking at the flowchart so we could see what part of the Gemara Tosfos is coming to explain. So here, it's after the Gemara originally said that we had two brises. That we're talking about a case where an individual lifted up an object in Rosh Hashanah on Shabbos, extended his hand outward into the Rosh Hashanah, and one brisa said Asur Lachzira, one brisa said Mutar Lachzira. So we explained that the way to interpret these two brises is that the brisa that says Asur Lachzira is because it holds that we gave the person's hand the status of a carmelist, because he shouldn't have done that. He shouldn't have extended his hand outwards on Shabbos while holding something. The one that says Mutar Lachzira is holds that the person's hand does not receive the status of a carmelist, therefore he can bring it back in. The Gemara then went on to say that there's actually 5 other ways of interpreting these two brises, and the first of them is that both brises actually hold that a person's hand is a carmelist. So why does one say Asur and one say Mutar? Because Kan L'Mata Ma'asara and Kan L'Mayla Ma'asara. The brisa that says it's Asur Lachzira, it's talking about a case where he extended his hand outside under 10 tefachim. And therefore, since it has the status of a carmelist, he can't bring it back in, since a person can't carry from a carmelist to Rosh Hashanah. And the one that said Mutar Lachzira is referring to a case where he extended his hand out above 10 tefachim. And since above 10 tefachim is a mokim p'tur, therefore Mutar Lachzira can bring it back in, since there's no carmelist above 10 tefachim. So let's begin with the general outline of Tosfos. We just explained that in the first way that the Gemara said, that different than the original way that we could understand the two brises is they both hold as a carmelist, Kan L'Mata Ma'asara, Kan L'Mayla Ma'asara. The one that says Asur Lachzira is L'Mata Ma'asara, the one that says Mutar Lachzira is L'Mayla Ma'asara. So what Tosfos is going to do is, Tosfos will ask, he's going to ask a question, that if one's hand is above 10 tefachim, then there shouldn't be any issue at all. Let's see it inside in the Tosfos. So we said, the Gemara gave the possible explanation that it's also when it's L'Mata Ma'asara and it's Mutar when it's L'Mayla Ma'asara. So Tosfos asks, V'im Teimar, it makes no sense to say that, it seems not to make any sense to say that the brisa that says Mutar Lachzira is referring to a case where he extended his hand outside above 10 tefachim. Because above 10 tefachim, a person is allowed to extend his hand outside. There's no problem. It's a mokim p'tur. Of course he can bring it back. And secondly, the brisa is written in such a way, if a person extended his hand. What's the if? It's perfectly fine. There's no issue involved. And of course he can bring it back because it's a mokim p'tur. So it doesn't make any sense to say that the brisa that says Mutar Lachzira is referring to a case of above 10 tefachim, because then it wouldn't present it as an issue that the person extended his hand outwards. And number 2, it wouldn't tell us as a chiddush. You could carry it back in. It's an obvious thing. You can carry the item back in. It's mutar to carry from any rishus, from a mokim p'tur into any rishus. And Tosfos answers, you can say that the brisa is teaching us. They're both referring to a case where he did an isser, where a person extended his hand outside beneath 10 tefachim. Also, Lachzira means you can't bring it back in by way of beneath 10 tefachim. And Mutar Lachzira means a person can bring it back in by way of above 10 tefachim. So to summarize, Tosfos started off by asking that if the two cases of the brisa are, the two brises are referring to different cases. One is where you took it out beneath 10 tefachim, that's the one that's asur. And one is that it's above 10 tefachim, that's when it's mutar. The second brisa won't make any sense, since we wouldn't present it as an issue if a person did it, and we wouldn't say that he could bring it back in as a chiddush because it's obvious. Tosfos explained that both brises are referring to a case where a person did an isser, extended it beneath 10 tefachim. And one brisa is saying Asur Lachzira, is saying by way of beneath 10 tefachim. Another brisa says it's mutar, it's by way of above 10 tefachim. Just to point something out, a question that could be asked. So it comes out that there's no accomplishment by the Chazal giving his hand the status of a carmelist, because if he extends it out beneath 10 tefachim, it's a carmelist, it's not a problem. He'll bring it above 10 tefachim and bring it back to him. And one possible thing we could say is that when Tosfos says he can bring it back above 10 tefachim, it doesn't mean that he could lechatchila do that, but rather that if a person took his hand up beneath 10 tefachim and then, without realizing he got it above, he put it above 10 tefachim, and then he became aware of the issue. So we're telling that individual now that it's already above 10 tefachim, he can bring it back in, but not that a person is permitted to bring it above 10 tefachim and bring it to him. Although some opinions learn that that is the din, that he can bring it to him above by way of above 10 tefachim.